Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is PC, and today we are back, BACK, with a brand new Gamer's Passion. And we got our returning co-host, The Rocks, I think of the YouTube gaming community, Jared, Super High Tech Gamer. Say hello.
Hey, what's up? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody out there.
All right, and we have SNK Neo Geo Man, aka Scrooge McDuck, aka Moneybags Magoo, aka Mr. Neo Geo AES Sal.
welcome. Thank you for another Rolls Royce. Got that part out of the way.
That's what it is. Eating off
That's
gold silverware.
That's right, motherfuckers. I'm Scrooge McDuck.
DuckTales.
Scrooge McDuckin. So, sorry guys about the hiatus, man, but been dealing with some family stuff, and hope you guys are having once again a good holiday. Hope you guys will actually go back and watch my little Pokemon video. Pretty cool video trying to show some in-depth about one of the best RPGs on the market for years now. Once again, if you think Pokemon is just for kids, you are crazy. A lot of adults play this game all over the world. So enough of that. We're going to go over and we're going to talk about a pretty cool subject that we all find, dear to our hearts, which is Sega. Now, we kind of dabbled on it in other podcasts, but this one's going to be kind of dedicated to it. And anything else we want to talk about. So we'll start off with, what you guys been playing recently. So we'll start off with Jared, man. What you been playing recently, man?
Wow, that's, you know what? I've been playing a lot of. I've been going back to 360 now that the Xbox One is out, the PlayStation 4 is out. And just kind of going back to that library. I've been playing some King of Fighters 13. Trying to play that a little bit. Not as good as Aphex Dash, the guy we had on here before. He's really into that game, so just kind of getting a little bit to the 360 library. Still play some retro stuff here and there, but not too much. I've been just like you, PC. I've been really busy. Haven't had a lot of time to play a lot of games, but I still have been trying to dabble a little bit to the Xbox 360 library. Kind of one of the things that I've been doing is just going to the stores and kind of getting the physical copies of games I don't think are going to be around anymore.
Smart.
I think this generation, this generation, we're going to probably look back in hindsight and say, oh, the 360 was good, the PS3 is good, because it's going to be all downloadable content. You'll be able to get a lot of physical copies of games. I've just been kind of dabbling around with that.
Okay, all right. And Sal, man, what you been playing? I know you just had a recent pickup video. Once again, you guys go check out his YouTube channel. Sal, he has a lot of great content on there. So Sal, what you been playing, man?
Like Jared was saying, dealing with some personal stuff, family stuff. But along the way, I've been actually playing some PC games. One game I'm trying to get into is actually it's like an unofficial play with Sternwind by that German company, a really fantastic shooters. And a lot of people who watch my channel know I'm not that big into shooters, but playing a game like that, it just really stands out. Like, it's one of those games that I fucking gush about, which shooters is not my thing, but I like it. Another one I was playing, kind of getting into, but it's hard as shit, is Ikaruga. Another hard motherfucking game, but still excellent. Just really fun, entertaining games. They're hard, but I've really been enjoying them. So those a couple. Then I actually been going back and forth, playing Market of Wolves on the Dreamcast. I don't know why I've been playing it on the Dreamcast, but I've been just playing the Japanese version because the US version is all fucked up. But the thing is that I've been playing a little bit of that, and then I kind of started trying to play my Neo Geo AES more because I really wasn't touching it for a while. Because I've been really bought in games for it, and like I said, being busy. So I started playing like the Samurai Showdown 3 and Samurai Showdown 4 that I recently purchased not so long ago. So the thing is that that's really about it. Nothing too intense or anything, but I have been trying to devote some time to the shooters.
We're getting a little bit of feedback. Is we say
Oh, okay. That must have cleared
It's
up.
gone now. It's gone now.
Now, Sal, I do have a question about one of those games you were talking about. That Starwind, you said?
Starwind.
Starwind. What is that about, man? Because I've never heard about it.
Okay, Starwind. That basically was actually a game that was maybe I'd say approximately 17 years in the making. It initially was supposed to come onto the Jaguar CD. Yeah, like somebody fucking owned that. The thing is that it was originally made for that system. Then whatever happened because the flop of the system and the what you call it, and due to whatever happened with the company. So what happens is throughout the years and all, even though that project got dropped to the Jaguar CD, it was never really dropped per se. So the company that was working on it just kept on working on it, and they were supposed to release it. I believe it was in 2000, maybe 11 or 10, but the CD printing plant or the fucking people who pressed the CDs, the fucking place like burnt down or some shit or went belly up. So it delayed them again. But it's actually they've been holding on to this game for a long time. And I saw a lot of YouTube videos regarding it, and it looked really interesting. It looks like kind of like Blazing Star, Polestar, but much better graphics, of course, and just very intense, big bosses, a lot of shit going on in the background. It's just a very highly detailed, well put together game. It's not easy at all. But it's just really fun to play. It just has that old school arcade feel to it that I like, and it's kind of little known, especially. Only reason why I found out about it, like I said, is from other YouTubers and seen some videos on it. And I saw the videos, I was like, I gotta get this shit. So
Yeah,
that's why.
what's interesting to me is like it's like a very highly developed game. That's what it
Yes, it is.
very highly developed, just like in the line of like the Neo dev team.
Dev teams.
Yeah, like just it's not it's like kind of like indie, but very high production values with all the manuals, with the extra items that you get.
Yeah, the limited edition shit.
Yeah, it's like very well put together. I wish that other companies would do stuff like that.
Well, you know what the point is? I'm glad they did, but like I said, they had 17 years in the making to have their shit together for it. So the thing is that it is well produced, but you can see that for the time that they put into it and all, the game is just superb. And the limited edition, the only difference the limited edition has, I believe, is the soundtrack and the fucking octopusy fucking plushie, because I think the octopus boss is like the one of the third stage or whatever the hell it is, But it's actually just like I said, a well produced. Like as soon as you pop that into your fucking Dreamcast, Jose, I'm gonna tell you something. Your eyes will light the fuck up. Just watch a YouTube video or a good quality YouTube video, and take my word, you will light the fuck up. You'll be like, God damn, I need to get this game. And like I said, I'm not a big shooter fan, and I was like, I have to get this. That's the reason why I can't watch enough.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out as a podcast then. Yeah, that sounds great. Besides that, you've been playing those games. You said.
What's this?
I said, besides those games, that's been about it. You haven't been really playing on the Neo at all.
I've been playing maybe a little, other than the AES for the games. I got the Samurai Showdowns and stuff. That's really about it. I haven't been really messing too much with the MVS. The only thing I have in the MVS, I think the last thing I played was Garou, and I still in the slot. But I've been really playing in, like, in other words, sometimes your interest kind of wanes a little bit over time because it's like, okay, it's just, I haven't picked up anything new, and then, you're tired from work, and also the interest exactly isn't there anymore. I'm not saying totally. I actually did purchase another Neo Geo game. I guess you'll see that in some future video or whatever, because if I try and find something for the right price, I'm going to try and snag it, because this shit is so expensive, and if I can see if I can get it, I can try to put it to my AS collection, because I would like to actually beef up my AS collection more than my MVS collection, but prices are just keeping me away from that, so that's really about it.
Okay. Well, I decided that maybe we're going to try a new just maybe like a new kind of format of the show. We're gonna do one more question and then we'll get to the main topic. But I say, every show will, I'll come up with this question and you guys can say what's on your mind about this. Jared, is there any one game that you've been wanting to pick up for a while that you haven't got a chance to, and your reasons why? And I'm gonna ask the same thing to Sal.
Okay, there's one game that's been on my menu for a while. Game that you own and you've showed off before, and that's Terra Driver. I think it's called Terra Diver or Terra Driver or so cool.
Oh, yeah, Sokugu Rentai.
Oh, yeah, that's a game that came out on the Sega Saturn in Japan, and it's also an arcade game as well. And that's a game that I never knew about back in the day when I had my import Saturn. And when I've been seeing it on a lot of collectors have that game, and it's so awesome. To me, it's like I like the style of it, I like the music, I like everything about it, but I haven't been committed to actually, put my money down and grab that game. I've been wanting it for a long time, and I don't know. It's just you can kind of psych yourself out of getting the game. It's like, I can get it sometime. I'll get it next week. That's one game that I've been wanting for a long time. It's a really impressive game to me, and I don't know. I've just been kind of lazy about it. I just kind of it's one of those things. I just gotta jump on it. I haven't for whatever reason because I make excuses. So that's one of the biggest games. I really want that game for the Sega Saturn.
You make the excuses now. It's like
exactly. Exactly.
I mean,
and I don't know about with you guys, but we get the holidays around now. And you think, I want that game for some. I can use that. I can buy it just for everyone else.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck. Like, I want this.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, then you end up, I'll just...
The Grinch.
The Grinch.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you're definitely right, man. I think this is the hardest time to be a gamer, this season, and especially if you have family members or kids or anything like that, because it is. Sal.
Kids are expensive.
Huh?
Kids are expensive, and they want all the latest shit.
Oh,
and their
yeah.
shit is expensive.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Sal, what's your game, man?
Technically, 2 games I really want, but the main one I really, really want.
Watch this shit be like $1,000.
What's this?
I said, watch the price of this fucking game be like $1,000.
Oh, absolutely. How can I be me if it isn't expensive? The thing is that the game that's actually been eluding me is the one fighting game I want for my collection. This way I can just end all the what's called fighters for the Neo. It's Samurai Shodown 5 Special.
Oh god.
And I'm determined to get it. Like if I gotta hunt a motherfucker down and shoot him, then I'm gonna fucking do it to get that game. Because I want that just to end, because I feel like this way I can actually close out my collection and kind of sort of end it and just leave it where it's at. But I feel kind of like there's a void missing in it. And every time I go to see the game, I'll look at the price and I'm like, I kind of don't want it. The next thing I turn around, the fucking thing is gone. So it's not only just me, but it's everybody's looking for this game and they're willing to get their hands on it. And of course, I've seen this game go. People buying this fucking game for $1,400-$1,500. Now, I'm a cheap motherfucker when it comes to certain things. And I ain't going to spend $1,400-$1,500 for that game. I mean, I know I'm going to have to spend a pretty good amount of change for it, but there's a point that where even I have a fucking limit. So the thing is that that's the only game that's kind of eluded me that I really, really do want. But I do want to find it at a fairer price rather than a lot of the jacked up prices they're trying to sell for anyone from $1,500 to $2,000. That's just nuts to me. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, you're talking like Metal Slug fucking 1 territory and shit. I'm like, I don't understand. I mean, it's rare because it's the last fucking game ever produced for the system, and I understand that. But the problem is that it's just so hard. And the problem is it only comes up on eBay every so often. And it isn't like, oh, you can wait on it because some motherfuckers want to buy it. That's the sad part. It isn't like, oh, well, it's expensive. You'll wait for the seller to drop the price. You think so. It does not fucking happen.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part about it. So, the only other game, I guess there's only the one, but I'll just put in this other one, is actually I kind of want it as kind of a collector's thing, is for the Dreamcast, is the Super Street Fighter 2 X fucking something match or whatever the fuck it is, which is actually a pretty rare game. Match service, yeah. And it's Super Street Fighter, like the arcade, but it was only in Japan, and it was only produced in so many limited copies. I do see them, but I don't want to pay the cost. The cost isn't too bad, but I just want like a certain price. So I'm trying to keep it kind of like, want to keep it at like under $100 for the game and all. It's just very hard to get hold of, and I did it once, let it slip through my fingers, but that one I would actually like for the Dreamcast collection. So other than that, but really the main one is that Samurai Shodown is like kind of like just ending off the Neo collection, because there's really nothing else to get for it once you complete the fighters, and maybe another shooter or two, but that's it. That's it. There's nowhere really else to go, because the rest of it would just be shelf padding, and that would be expensive shelf padding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta add a little bit of something to that, Sal. It's like, for me, oh man, it'd be very hard for me to justify buying that Samurai Shodown special, 5 special. I mean, especially if you think about the quality of it. I mean, even you, I think you said yourself, you have misgivings about the quality and everything they did with it. Or am I missing something?
Samurai Shodown 5 was fucked up. That game was fucked up. I think they really fucked that game up. Special was better, but I don't want it so much because it's such a fantastic game. I want it because from a collector standpoint of view. Now, I'll play it, don't get me wrong. Don't think it's going to just sit on my shelf and fucking collect dust. All the games I've had, I've played them. They're not like, specially bubble wrapped or any of that shit. They do get played. But the thing is, I guess it's from a collector standpoint too, that you want it, because that would be the final game that I'll have, and I'll have every single fighter for the Neo Geo. Not every single game, but I'll have every single fighter for the Neo Geo. Like I said, like I don't want stuff that's like the horse games and Mahjong and detective. I don't give a fuck about that. I just want that particular game because I like the fighting game, and I just want that as a complete collection as far as the fighters. That's the only reason why. I'm not saying it's fantastic. I could buy Garou, and that's a fantastic game, but I don't want to spend that money for it. And that's way cheaper technically than that. It's because it's just, if I can find it for the AS or if I can find it for the MVS, I'll be satisfied. Whatever I can find it for is what, at a decent price, is what I'll go for. So it doesn't have to be an AS game. It can be just for the MVS.
I'll tell you what though, man. I think Samurai Shodown 5 Special has the best AES cover art though.
Yeah, kinda.
That cover art is fucking badass.
Oh, the artwork is always good. Yeah, that's.
You mean the Japanese version or the
Japanese
American
one? No, the Japanese one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would buy it just to look at that shit.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It's actually pretty cool. Because the American version just has all the bosses on it, just the face of the boss. And then when you turn the game over, it has the same cover art as Japanese has on their front of their cover art.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I would, like, to me, it doesn't matter which version or even MVS. I would still get the fucking shock box, probably with the Japanese cover art rather than the American one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And same question. Same question for myself. The game I'm looking for it's really expensive. It's for the Sega Saturn. It's called Hyper Duel. I don't know if you guys ever. Yeah, that's an expensive ass game.
Soft.
Yeah, Tecmo Soft, and looking for that one. And I'm looking for Katsui for the PS3. that game is not too expensive, but it may start getting up there, so I have to try and grab it quick. So hopefully after the holidays I can do that. But that's a cave shooter, region free for the PS3. So those two are mine. Yeah.
How expensive that Saturn game though?
Oh shit!
Like,
it's like about.
Is it really like up there?
It's like about. Well, I mean, it's expensive for a Saturn game. It's like about $300, close to $400.
Oh shit! Yeah, it is expensive.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it's in the top 4 rarest games for the Saturn.
Is it that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good, man. It's good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those holy grails to me, so I would definitely get it. Yeah. All right, so on to the main subject. We're talking about Sega, and we're talking about Sega in their glory days, Sega when they fucked up, which was a lot, and Sega how they basically got their shit together at the end, but it was too late. So we're gonna start off, I guess. We'll just kind of go through the systems, and we got to share our experiences with you guys, and we'll start off with the Sega Master System. And I know Jared had a lot of experience with the system, so Jared, take it away, man.
Yeah, the Sega Master System. Now, it's a funny thing how you think about the 8, because it's an 8-bit system, and back in the day it was about Nintendo Entertainment System, which we called the NES, and there was this little known rival system that was kind of in the corner. It was called the Sega Master System. I remember the day. I remember deciding with my brother back in the day when we were kids, what system we were going to get. It was between these two. We're like kind of like these, we had to be consumers, or smart consumers. Which one was the system to get? And we looked at both systems and seen the software library, and we were comparing both. And the NES won. It's like, well, you know what? The Master System has a little bit of fancy graphics, but the NES, it has a proven library. It has the Mario, even Legend of Zelda was even out back then. But it had a great library of games, and it was pretty innovative. It wasn't even called a video game system; it was called an entertainment system, like Sound brought up before. And so we went with that, and I was very happy with it. I loved the NES. I loved it, and so that was the system we had. But my friend had lived across the street from us, directly across the street. We lived in a little apartment complex. He decided that he wasn't going to get a NES. He was going to get the Sega Master System. And that was a very curious thing. Yeah, it's a very curious thing why he would do that. So we would go over there. He had a Master System, and I would just drool. I mean, literally. I mean, just like those jealous little kids. Where you're like, oh, this is so great. And I remember like watching him play Space Harrier, and just like, oh my god, seeing that game in the arcade, he was playing that, and albeit it wasn't nowhere near the arcade, but it was faithful to it. And the games just had just a different vibe. They had a different vibe. They had a little bit more color, and it was just like kind of like an alternative universe. We're used to Nintendo, we're used to Mario, Duck Hunt, we're used to the type of games around the NES, but there was games on the Master System that were just incredible. They were really great in their own way. It wasn't as commercially, successful, but there were so many great games I used to dream about. I would daydream about the Master System when I was a kid, honestly. And there were just some game titles that I just wanted. And I remember I got to the point when I was a kid, I had asked my parents if I could see the Master System. That was a mistake, dude. I was like, you've already made your decision. You've already got this Nintendo system. How dare you ask me for something else? How dare you ask me for something else? And I was just distraught. It was like, oh my god, I might have made the wrong decision, blah, blah. But the thing is, just getting past all that, the Master System was just one of those systems that me and my older bro, we ended up getting one offhand. We actually were able to enjoy a lot of the game titles for it. And we played it along with the NES. It was like we had the best of both worlds, and that was really cool. But there were some games on the Master System that to me are just ultimate classics. Just say that.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about you, Salman? Did you have any experience with the Master System or no?
Oh, absolutely. I never owned one myself, but I had a friend like Jared who lived not too far from me that I knew in middle school, and he had one. He didn't have a Nintendo, but he just had the Master System. And what was cool is that you actually got games with it without actually having a cartridge in it. Because what was it, Hang-On? And what's the other game that was already in the system? I forget what the hell it was.
I think it was
was it?
I think it was Safari Hunt or something like that.
Yeah, and that was really cool. I liked that because it's like you had games right out of the box without a cartridge. But he actually had some pretty good. We actually played like Ultra Beast on it. I think Dick Tracy was pretty good. A couple other games and stuff, and I was always impressed by how colorful the graphics were compared to the Nintendo, and the sound was a bit clearer too because the Nintendo sound was just completely fucking awful. But at that age, at that stage of the game, any speech in any video game was just like wow, like it was just so awesome. But yeah, I was always impressed by it. The only thing was kind of weird was the controller, and with the start, the select thing was kind of goofy compared to Nintendo's controller itself. But it wasn't uncomfortable or anything. But it was just a lot of good games that just so many just so hard to remember because it was so long ago. The thing is that, but it was actually a decent machine. Unfortunately, it just had a real shit run here, but a lot of the classics actually came out for it. I'm pretty sure Golden Axe came out for it too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was late. That was late in the game, though. That was after the Genesis was out.
Yeah.
A lot of games that came out for the Genesis came out for the Master System.
Yeah, because I remember playing some of the different games, and I liked them. They were like I said, they were colorful. They looked way better. You can tell the Master System was a better machine, but Nintendo had the dominance and everything.
They had the licensees.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, the point is Nintendo had it, whereas that in order to, I think you can only produce for them. They had a lot of shady business tactics back in the day, Nintendo, where like you had to sign only with them and things like that. But see, it was still kind of new back then, the whole gaming market, because of all the shit that happened just a few years prior with the gaming crash. So, I mean, the thing is, Sega had to kind of rely on themselves and all to produce a lot of the product, which, when they did, it was pretty good. But like you said, like even Streets of Rage was on it, but that kind of sucked. But the thing is that, what's this?
No, what I was going to say, Sal, is like what you're saying with the licensees. That was what was completely true. Sega had to rely only on its own IPs back then. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the luxury like Nintendo did because they locked in all the third-party companies that day, like Konami and Capcom.
They weren't stupid.
Yeah, they were very strict on that, so no one else could make a game outside of that. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of fucking insight and foresight to see that doing that, the thing is to secure lock these people in and all. But the thing is, I know that the Master System did probably extremely well, and I know in like Brazil, and I know in in Europe for the most part it did. It didn't do so great over here in Japan. Maybe it's due to Sega's marketing campaign. Who knows? I mean, the thing is that I just remember playing it briefly, like when I was in middle school, and then around time high school came, it was kind of like gone. Like nobody, because you're talking maybe late 80s and stuff like that. It was pretty much at the tail end. You might be able to catch a game here and there, but for the most part, like when you see the Toys R Us or Babbage's and stuff like that, it was a clearance for the most part, and that was it.
Okay, well, let me tell you guys something about, to me, how you have, there's one system, you have a game system, and is it worth owning? Like, is there one game that makes that system worth owning? And to me, back then, and to me today, what makes that machine worth owning was Fantasy Star. Fantasy Star.
Okay, yeah.
Can't stress that enough. Because, let me tell you, back in the day, RPGs, how we talk about RPGs, pretty common now. You know, they're pretty common, but back in the day, they weren't as common. If you wanted to play an RPG back then, you had to basically have a computer, like a PC or something like that. You couldn't really play like a long-winded game. But Fantasy Star was like, not only was it a very long quest, it was a big game. It was huge. It was 4 megabit. That sounds fun now. But that was a big game. And let me tell you, the graphics in that game at that time were so remarkable. I mean, it was insane. It was like better than anything that you could find anywhere, even on a console or on a computer at that time. I mean, just beautiful animations on the monsters. I mean, this really colorful graphics, really complex and deep play mechanics with the dungeons and the spells and all that. That was unheard of back then. And to me, that one game is what makes that system worthwhile. I mean, that's an incredible game. Even to me today, I'm way old now. But that game's right. It's a great RPG. So.
Okay.
And you'll see that on YouTube too. You'll see a lot of guys give that game a lot of props. But it really was. It was great, especially back then.
Okay. Well, I'll share my experience with it. I remember going over to a family member's house, and they had it, and I believe they're playing Hang On for it. And we had our NES over there, and I remember walking past the TV, and they were playing on it, and I took one look at it, and in my mind, as a child, I can't say it out loud. I'm like, fuck that! I got Mega Man over here. Fuck that! I got Mega Man. I got Castlevania in my book bag. Fuck that system. And now, even today, I've owned one for close to a year now. I picked one up at a Goodwill for like $25, like boxed and everything. I have hooked that shit up one time. That's one Sega system that I'm not too down for.
You know what, PC?
Not down with it.
That's how I was, like, even back in the day. Like, I was a hater, too. I was like, we had the NES, and we had, I wanted to prove that the Master System was great. So I had the Castlevania, which was awesome. In fact, they just got overwhelmed. I mean, the quality of games on the NES, there was just more of them, and they had great playability, and it just kind of overshadowed the Master System. I'll tell you what, though, I don't think there was an RPG, and I'll say this right now on this podcast, there was nothing better than Fantasy Star. That game was just the game. I mean, because Nintendo at that time, they had a couple RPGs, like Ultima Exodus at the time, and they had Dragon Warrior, at the time, which was Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
It was Dragon Quest 1. And I'll tell you, I mean, those games just could not compete with Fantasy Star 1. I thought that game was just like, to me, like a holy grail of gaming, and it was only on that machine. But like, that being said, I mean, yeah, we had the NES, and there was totally like awesome games on that.
Yeah.
I just was just so envious of Fantasy Star back then.
Okay. We'll move on to the second console. We're just going with the mainstream consoles. I know there was some before the Sega Master System, but the ones that came out over here in the U.S. and across the world. Next, we're going on to the Sega Genesis, the almighty Mega Drive.
Wow.
And this one right here is where a lot of Sega fans are born. And I'll let Sal take it away, man.
Oh, man. Shit, yeah. When the thing is, like I said, I had a Nintendo for quite a bit of time and all, but when I motherfucking saw the commercials for Sega Genesis, Sega does what Nintendo don't, I couldn't believe it. And a lot of games they feature were actually kind of shitty fucking games when I actually think about it. Like Buster Douglas's knockout boxing. But when you're a kid and you see the type of graphics they were showing you on TV, it was unbelievable. The thing is that there's a lot of static in the background.
Yeah.
The thing is that I don't know if it's awful, but what's this? So much fried chicken.
This was
What's this? So much fried chicken. But the thing is that when I saw the commercials, I knew I had to have one, and I got mine way before Sonic. So my Genesis was the Ultra Beast. What do you call it? Packing game.
Okay.
And I loved Ultra Beast in the arcade. I mean, it's not the greatest game and all, but as a kid to actually play a port of that arcade game that was pretty damn close to it, it was wonderful. The only disappointment is that we actually got it home. The fact of the matter, you beat it in in 20 minutes or less. So, but the thing is that, and I think the next couple games were a lot of animation games like Castle of Illusion and Quackshot and things like that. And then the ultimate game came out at the time because I was a big beat 'em up fan. Is Streets of Rage, and the only reason why I got that is I looked at the fucking cover art and I looked on the back, but I got it at Toys R Us. I just looked at it, looked at the cover, looked at the back. I was like, oh, I got to get this. And what a fantastic game! Of course, everybody knows it's legendary, and just started enjoying a lot of the Genesis games that I had. And the best ones were a lot of Disney games. There was just a ton of great ones, especially a lot of interesting ones, like Konami games, especially with, Sparkster and all those other ones.
Oh, yes.
Playing Castlevania Bloodlines on it, playing
Rocket Knight
Contra
Adventures.
Fucking great fucking games on. There's just too many things. I had Mercs on it. I had so many Konami games on it. It's just a lot of games. You just really can't say like ones that are just too many to name. Even I had Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. It was all right, but thinking about it now, there were a lot of pretty good games and all that were on it. And the Sonic game, Strider, I had. The thing is, the Sonic, I couldn't get into Sonic. I guess because I was so, inundated with Mario that I really couldn't dig it. I just really couldn't get into Sonic, But a lot of the games were just so fucking good, and there were too many good ones to name. I'm sorry, I'd be here like all fucking day naming them. So it's just, I had a very pleasant experience with the Genesis. Having the original Model 1 with the high def and all that shit on it. And just a lot of good ones. Batman, the original one. Great games. Very, just well put together. A lot of great IPs. A lot of great companies supporting them. They learned from their mistakes. And, just excellent system.
Yeah, I think one of the best things Sega did was they actually did, just like how you said, learn from their mistakes as far as like advertising. Like they got really aggressive with their advertising, and it started a lot of wars. So I remember having a friend that used to live down the street. He had a Super Nintendo way before I got one, and I had the Sega Genesis, and he would be playing cool games. Like at the time as a kid, I thought like Clay Fighters was real cool. And I don't believe they had that for the Sega Genesis. And
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think just Super Nintendo. And remember, he was kind of like making fun of me, about that. I would go over his house and he'll kind of showing off and shit like that. And then I'll be like, all right, well, come down to my house. And I had Rocket Knight Adventures or Contra, Hardcore Ops, stuff like that. I'm like, see, you can't get that shit over there, right? So, just going back and forth, stupid playground stuff. Just Sega Genesis blew my mind, man. I loved playing Street Fighter. That's where I learned how to play Street Fighter, Ron. I got so into it that I would actually look at the manual for hours and look at the character art and actually learn how to draw all the characters in the booklet. And so the Sega Genesis really molded me as a gamer. I think the most as far as in my adolescence. Once again with stuff like Lightning Force, aka the Thunder Force and stuff like that, and Mortal Kombat 2 was really big for me. I fucking loved Mortal Kombat 2 back in the day. Still do. And stuff like Ultra Beast. What is it called? That Mickey Mouse game, like you said, Castle of Illusion.
It's a fucking great game.
Great game, yo. And for me, I love Streets of Rage 2 the most, man. That game is fucking awesome, yo. The game is awesome. And then one of my best memories about the about the Sega Genesis was, I remember I was at my grandmother's house, and she, and my uncle, he had a Sega Genesis over there, and he came home with Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, the cart, the conjunction cart. And I remember playing that shit. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, just the sheer mechanics of back in the day of how that damn thing fits into the other cartridge. And then, stacked it on top of it. And he had a Sega CD and a 32X at the time. And he stacked all that shit on together. It looked like a fucking battleship. You know what I mean? It shit looked like it was from, like, space. And, that shit just looked so cool, man. Like, Sega Genesis was really, like, I just think it was, like, the cool kid system.
It was a bit more harder. I think it was more hardcore than the Super Nintendo in a lot of ways, because that was a purpose of the Genesis of kind of like more adult-ish type games, especially like RoboCop versus Terminator and a couple other games that were more violent. Especially that one shit game. What the hell was that shitty game? Sort of Zodon or whatever the fuck it was. It's like super horrible but super violent.
Hell, those games they weren't that great. They were basically a lot of Amiga ports back then. But I'll tell you, the game that is one of the sellers of the Genesis at that time was Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh, yes.
Which actually was a Capcom license. Sega programmed it because it says reprogrammed by Sega. But that game right there was a big seller because
I like that
Ghouls
game.
and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis was almost one for one of the arcade version, minus some small refined details. But other than that, that game was the playability. That was huge. It was a huge seller, just that you can play Ghouls and Ghosts. And there's so many different variety of games. I just remember that was a dream machine for me. It definitely was. It was definitely a dream machine.
Jared and Sal, do you guys remember Sega Channel?
Yep.
I never had it, but I remember the commercials for it.
Man.
I never had it either. But I've never used it. I remember it very vividly.
I never had it. That one friend of mine, the one I was telling you about with the Super Nintendo, he had it. The motherfucker, he had it. So I would go over his house, right? I would go over his house, and I remember playing Gunstar Heroes for the first time over there. I remember playing Vector Man, and I also remember playing Pulse Man, which was only a Japanese title, but it was only on the Sega Channel in the U.S. And that was made by.
Was it Pulse Star?
No, I think it was Pulse Man.
Is it Rice Star?
Yeah, I think he had a little lightning thing on his head. Is that the one you're talking about?
No.
He had a helmet or something like that?
Yeah, the helmet guy. But Rice Star, he kind of looks like a black ball with like a thunder sign on his body.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Rice Star. But Pulse Man.
No. I think you got it wrong. Okay, I know there was.
Hold on. Pulse Man. Yeah.
Someone's got out there's got to look it up. Yeah, Pulse Man. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Pulse Man. That's actually the first game that Game Freak, the guys who only make Pokemon games, that was their first game.
Excellent. Yep.
Yes, and that game was pretty hard back in the day, Pulse Man. Yeah. But yeah, I remember Sega Channel, really cool. I remember, one of my mom to get it, and she's like, fuck you, and you know what I mean? Because she's not paying for that.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I gotta say something real quick. One of my biggest boosters back in the day for the Mega Drive with the Sega Genesis, that really made me buy a lot of games was a game magazine called Game Fan.
I love them.
Oh my god! I remember they used to make me drool over certain games. They would highlight games that people, like the mainstream magazines, would talk about. Like we were talking about, like PC Gunstar Heroes. That they were giving that game mass coverage. Castle Illusion, like all really high quality games that were coming out of the Mega Drive at the time. Landstalker, which was the action RPG game with a 3/4 view, kind of like a Legend of Zelda type game. That game was freaking awesome. Phantasy Star 4. There were so many great. Another game called Ranger X, called X Ranza, Japan, a really innovative, really beautiful looking mech type side scroll shooter. There were just so many great games. The Thunder Force series. Wow. I mean, just like Sal was saying, on and on. There's so many great games on the system.
Yeah, too many lists.
Yes.
Yeah, Shining Force 2.
Oh yes,
That's a
beautiful.
great game,
Shining
man.
Force 1. Oh,
Yeah.
all the Shining Force. Yeah,
Yeah,
Shining
great
Force
game.
1, Shining Force 2. Those are great games.
Yeah.
Great games.
Yeah. Now, I guess we'll move on to the third system, which is oh my god, I love this system, the Sega Saturn.
Yes, sir.
I love it. Sal hates it with all his soul. I know. Sal hates it with all of his soul.
I actually do have some friends that are on the PS2 of it.
Well, this is where we're gonna convert. We're gonna convert Sal to make him a Sega.
Oh no, you're not gonna do this when you no conversion, brother. I'm gonna testify to that. But no, I mean, I remember seeing the Saturn in Toys R Us and all, and because they had a Virtua Fighter for it, and I was impressed. I mean, it was like glitchy the fuck up compared to the arcade, but they did have actually a lot of nice games. I mean, the thing is that as far as arcade ports goes and things like that, the Saturn was way more high quality than the PS1. As far as when it came to certain arcade ports and things like that, the Saturn was more of a 2D machine than really 3D. I don't know why they kind of went, because if you look,
I can't let you make that. I just don't see that. I mean, a lot of people do make that. They do say that. They say, "Oh yeah, the Saturn was a 2D machine. It did do it well." But there was so many good 3D games on the Saturn.
I'm not saying that there was.
People don't give recognition to.
Did you let me finish my statement?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're jumping ahead, my friend. You're making accusations. The thing is that no, it was, and it showed as far as, let's say, like Virtua Fighter 2 was an outstanding game for the Sega Saturn, and I don't think anybody here is going to disagree. But the models themselves and kind of the ring itself was 3D, but the backgrounds themselves, were 2D bit map because they couldn't do it. I'm not saying that the point is that its main focus really was actually, to be honest with you, 2D. Yeah. I'm not saying that they couldn't pull off a lot of 3D elements. There were fantastic games for the Sega Saturn. They had a lot of elements to make, like especially like what is it? It was a Panzer Dragoon, and a couple other ones like that. In other words, so they were able to pull off, even if it was maybe a pseudo 3D or 3DS type of thing, they were able to pull off some pretty stunning type of 3D elements. But I'm saying, as far as certain things, a lot of their high quality games that they have are pretty much on a 2D field, which, in a sense, as they needed the RAM cartridge for a couple other things, like a lot of arcade ports, but that's what they did well in. That's something where they fucking nuked the PlayStation fucking 1 at. Like, the PlayStation 1, for the most part, really kind of was 3D. It was more 3D, but it was so limited in the RAM it could have. It was 3D to an extent. It just couldn't do... just couldn't have all the animations and stuff like that. It was more of a polygonal type of machine, but I think the Sega Saturn really was a bit more on the 2D force, but it did have 3D games, like Last Bronx were pretty good on it, Fighting Vipers. They were pretty damn good games, and all I'm saying, and they played well. Yeah. So, and try to run them at 60 frames and things like that. And also, I ain't forgetting about it, brother. Chill out,
Oh yeah, Dead or Alive too. Dead or Alive, that was another.
Dead or Alive, yeah.
Really important back in the day. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I hear that too. But the thing about the Sega Saturn, it could do good 3D, but you had to program it. You had to be a good programmer to do it. Just kind of like similar to like the PlayStation 3 nowadays. PlayStation 3 is very hard to program. It's not as easy for a developer to make it.
Yeah, but they purposely did that. That was purposely did. That wasn't something where somebody had to figure out a loophole because of it. They purposely announced it to make it more difficult to fucking smash the 360 because their attitude is, if we make our games harder to produce on, the 360 won't get them. But it backfired and 360 got them. But that was intentional. I don't think with the Saturn something like that was intentional.
Yeah, no, with the... I think the whole story with the Saturn was that the Saturn... When they initially started building the Saturn, just like Sal said, it was supposed to be a 2D, really a 2D only machine. And it was only until they got information about the Sony machine, the PlayStation, that they actually scrambled at the last minute and started throwing in extra shit to make it 3D. But just like Sal was saying.
Disagree with that.
No, the reason why I say it is because if you want 2D games, right? 2D games without a RAM card, you go to the Saturn. The Saturn can run Street Fighter Alpha 2 perfect, arcade perfect. Now, if you play that same game on the PlayStation 1, that shit is not happening. It's choppy. It is hell, okay? The load times are so bad, especially on Street Fighter Alpha 1, they're terrible. But you will never see a 3D game, look as good, and believe me, I've owned mostly all of them, all the good ones. You never see a game on Sega Saturn 3D wise look as good as, like, let's say Tekken 3 on PlayStation 1. That's true. That's right. And then at the same time, you'll never see a more perfect arcade version of Darkstalkers 3. You know what I mean? Even though it has the RAM card, but even Night Warriors, it's just that's how it is. If you want 2D, you go to the Saturn, but you can get you still can get 3D, which like Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is a very pretty game, but it doesn't not.
What about Knights? What about Knights?
There's a lot of good. Dead or Alive was great. Last Bronx had great, awesome 3D graphics.
Yeah.
And one thing I do have to bring up. This is one thing. The Sega Saturn, which is based on the Sega Titan STV.
Yeah.
You had that in the arcade, so that machine could do Sega. That kind of genre of games, STV, SVT, always messing up. The Sega Titan games. But the thing is, at the time, Sega had a superior arcade port called the Sega Model 2. So basically, all the games like Sega Rally, Virtua Fighter 2, and all their top-notch games like Fighting Vipers, they were running on Sega Model 2. And the Sega Saturn's inferior to that. So basically, you had to make these ports from the arcade, which was at a higher level than what was available on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
So it's comparing two different things. Like compare the graphics of say like a Ridge Racer, which is made by Namco at that time, to Daytona, which is made on the Sega Model 2 board. In the arcade, there's no comparison in graphics. There's no comparison.
What I can say once again, just real quick, just to chime in, what I can say about that is if anyone, and please leave it in the comments. If you can find me a better game than Ridge Racer 4 on the PlayStation 1, good looking wise, smooth wise, because that game is smooth. I don't know. I do not know the frame rate on that game, but it is smooth. If you can find me a better looking game, better playing game, frame rate wise on the Saturn, I'll put you up to that there. 3D wise. Now.
The only game that Sega, the only well-developed racing game for the Sega Saturn, I'm just gonna say it is Sega Rally.
Sega Rally.
They never improved. They never got better than that. That's true. I agree with you.
Yeah. Now at the same time, if someone can find me a better running 2D game like Guardian Heroes on the Saturn that can handle all those sprites at once,
scaling in and out,
action, even with the slowdown on the Saturn, that cannot be done on the PlayStation 1.
That's the
good argument.
That's what I was saying to you, like Jared. I was like, look, the PlayStation 1 was built around 3D.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, it really was built around. That's why a lot of 2D shit kind of ran half-assed. But the Saturn, its initial thing was built around, I would say, an older scale. But that's why that RAM cartridge came into play to keep up with some of the games that were moving at a higher rate. Let's say Darkstalkers or the King of Fighters games and things like that. Now, as far as pushing 3D to them, that would have been a little bit harder. True, they could do elements of it, but the actual architecture of the system was not built for it. They were built for high-end 2D. It was supposed to be kind of like a Neo Geo, kind of like steroided the fuck up a little bit. And the fact of the matter is that's what it was supposed to be. And whereas the PlayStation 1 was supposed to be moving away from 2D and concentrating kind of, I wouldn't say solely, but heavily on 3D. That's why games like Tekken 2, which is one of the reasons why I bought the PlayStation 1, then eventually got fucking rid of it. But the Tekken games and certain 3D games look fantastic and play fantastic, and the environments were 3D because it was centered or built around that particular design.
Well, the thing is, the PlayStation architecture was very similar to the arcade architecture that they were making. It was called, I believe they called the System 11 and System 22 boards. That's what ran Tekken 2, Tekken 3, and Ridge Racer arcade games. And those games, the architecture of the System 11 and the System 22 are basically identical to PlayStation. Same like your Star Gladiator game. You know, those games back then, I mean, those were basically PlayStation games that were in the arcade.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the thing is, my whole little bit of fan. My thing of it is my thing of it is compared to the Sega Model 2 games, there's just no comparison. You can't compare.
No.
That hardware to the Model 2, which was at that time was very expensive, and it was very hard to make a port to the Sega Saturn, like a game like Virtua Fighter 2 or Daytona the arcade.
Right.
It was just
I agree.
significantly higher technology at that time.
That's why the Dreamcast came much later, a few years, because they knew that the architecture had to be bumped up for that. Because, like you said, if they keep on developing, kind of like the CPS-1 and the CPS-2, there's going to be a higher range, so you have to bump up the machine for that. I agree with you. That's, I guess, why the Dreamcast, its inception was there, because, like you said, to push the limits and the arcade can keep up with that arcade architecture, like you said. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with the Sega Saturn was, it got overshadowed by the hype of the PlayStation 1, so a lot of people really never got a chance to play it, and and now the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn games are really rising up in price. It's more it's kind of like the trendy system now to collect for, and I think a lot more people are getting exposed to it and seeing that it has a lot of great games for the system, a lot of unique games that was only for that system, and so I'm really happy about that now that people are experiencing Sega Saturn, because it is one of my top 5 game consoles of all time.
The thing is with the Sega Saturn, what fucked it up wasn't really so much the games. What fucked it up was Sega.
Yeah.
Sega fucked it up, fucking up the American launch. They were supposed to launch it at a certain particular date. They launched it earlier, and the stores couldn't prepare for it. 2, I forget the guy who was president at Sega at that time.
Bernie Stoller.
Bernie
Stoller.
Electronic gaming show. That the Saturn is not our future. So everybody who's going to develop and still keep constantly support for it, dropped it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the Sega Genesis at that time was a cash cow for Sega of America. It was a cash cow. So why would they want to introduce a new system at that time? That was going to interfere with their. But they were successful with the Sega Genesis. They were successful with all that stuff. So they were afraid of the Sega Saturn, whereas Sega Japan was ready for this new technology, this new Sega Saturn, because the Mega Drive wasn't really that popular in Japan. It wasn't as popular as it was in the US here. So it was like kind of like you had 2 different agendas. And so what they so what they wanted was, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, but the thing is, but the point is that America, Sega of America, Sega of Japan actually followed what America was doing. So what they used to do is kind of see what they were doing. When they saw America had no faith in it, because I forget the fool's name who actually said it, but when he said it,
Bernie Stoller.
That's what I was about. I thought it was
Bernie Stoller.
But I wasn't sure.
Every Sega fan knows that guy's name, bro.
Yeah,
Bernie Stoller.
The reason I'm saying is, I thought it was Stoller, but I just didn't want to throw out a fucking random name.
Yeah.
The thing is, he fucking has said that the thing is that the future. Japan followed suit with that and saying, oh, okay, well, if you're saying it's fucked up, even though they kind of did support it for a little bit longer and all, the thing is that, unfortunately, they could have survived, and that's where their whole eventual downfall would have fucking smashed into the Dreamcast. Because don't get me wrong, the 32X, the Sega CD were, kind of, two black eyes and shit. But the thing is that the Saturn, by telling somebody we've got this new fucking machine, and then this is not a future war coming out, in another year or so, that fucked people up in Japan, followed suit. And it became a lot of conflict there. And he created a lot of dumb shit and a lot of stupid decisions that tanked Sega. And from then on would have tanked Sega fucking from that point forward. And that's where the trust started to dwindle with people who weren't even fanboys and stuff like that.
Let me tell you, I'll tell you some bad decisions that were made by Sega. One, they would not allow 2D games to be brought over from Japan. They had this whole anti-2D thing where they thought that was the past. So those smooth running Sega or Capcom arcade fighters that we were playing in the arcades, wanted a good version of, they weren't going to bring out here. They're just like, screw that. That's the past. But we wanted those games, but they were never going to bring out those games from American Sega Saturn. And then another thing, I know PC's a fan of RPGs. Games like Lunar and that were basically, those were Sega exclusive games. Lunar, and also there's another RPG series, Grandia. Those were made on the Sega Saturn. They were made for the Sega Saturn, and they passed those games up, and they didn't want to bring those RPGs out to the Sega fans who actually were familiar with those games because of the Sega CD. They had the Sega CD, so they passed that up. There was some dispute because of what was the name of the company? Working Designs, and Sega kind of got into it and everything. So they left that title for dead. It comes out on the PlayStation 1, it becomes an instant hit. It's like they kind of just gave up their key titles. They had some great games for the Sega Saturn, but they were never allowed to be brought out for some type of reasons. It just sucked.
That's why oh, sorry. The thing is, sorry to interrupt, but that's why when people were afraid when Sega purchased Atlas, that Atlas makes those kind of weirdy ass titles, that they were kind of afraid that they would not bring them over because of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Well, Sega at the same time, they had worked out a deal back, real late in the days of the Saturn, where they were actually going to bring out the RAM carts and like Street Fighter vs. X-Men over to the States, but I guess the deal fell through. I think that right there would have got a lot more attention, out of the Sega market.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
because that's a popular game. It's like you can't play that game anywhere else.
You could, but they were terrible.
Yeah, PlayStation 1. I had all those games, all those Capcom games back in the day on the PlayStation 1. They fucking were terrible. Like I didn't even know. Listen to me. I didn't even know that you can tag in on Street Fighter versus X-Men. I didn't know because they did not allow you to do that feature on the PlayStation 1. They actually took that feature out.
You didn't have the RAM for it.
Yeah. I did not know that because I never played that game on the arcade. So I only played it on the PlayStation 1. I did not know that you can tag in.
Don't feel bad, PC, because I remember like back in the day when I had King of Fighters 95 on the Neo Geo, and they SNK had brought out those games on the PlayStation 1, and everyone was all thinking that, now I can just have your same game on my PlayStation. It sucked. I'm sorry, it sucked bad.
Balls.
Balls. It was horrible.
It was worse than the Neo Geo CD version.
Yeah, exactly. So I was so disappointed. I was like, okay, this thing's supposed to be more powerful, but it cannot do 2D crap.
Yeah, that and Samurai Showdown 3 were.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was like the worst port ever. That Samurai Showdown 3 one. The load times was like almost no fucking joke. The load times on that game was like 4 minutes between a match.
Yeah.
That shit was crazy.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. If you're an SNK fan at that time and you thought you were going to get some arcade perfect ports on PlayStation 1, no go. It just wasn't good. Yeah.
So
ain't go for that.
Yeah. So since we kind of skipped over, I guess two consoles which Sal had brought up, let's just hurry up and I guess kind of give me your thoughts on these consoles, guys, and then we'll move on to going back into the golden age of Sega that was cut short. And we're talking about the Saturn. I mean, no, we're talking about the Sega CD and the 32X. We'll start off with Jared. Just some quick thoughts about those two systems. How did you feel about them?
Sega CD or Mega CD, what they called it. I looked forward to it. I bought one back in the day with my money when I was like, it's probably like fast food release or whatever. I saved on my money to buy that system. The technology at the time didn't really live up exactly. I think that CD-ROM technology was overhyped. Period. It just really was because they promised us high-capacity ROM games. Like I was thinking more like along the lines of Neo Geo, but it really wasn't that way. You got a lot of compressed, crappy video, but there were some good titles on Sega CD, and probably about 5 games that were actually really worthy. I can probably say Final Fight CD, Sylphid, Lunar series 1 and 2. Working Designs brought out some really good RPGs. Maybe a couple of hit and miss games.
Wait. You didn't say Snatcher, bro.
Oh, well, you know what? Let me tell you about Snatcher. Snatcher came out very, very late in the development of the Sega CD. I had lost interest by the time Konami brought out Snatcher.
Yeah.
That was made by Konami, and that's like what you call it was like a cyberpunk text adventure game.
Yeah.
Which had been out in Japan, but that came out way late in the Sega CD development cycle. And I remember seeing it. I saw it in the store. I worked at a store. They had it, but I didn't have the wherewithal to pick that game up because I was like, I was done with it by that time. Because one thing about the Sega CD development cycle, the games were very few and far between good games. I mean, there were some games like Pop Full Mail, which was very good. It was kind of like a side-scroll RPG. Working Designs did their best to kind of bring out kind of like the Japanese RPGs. They did the best they could. I commend them for that. But overall, I mean, is the Sega CD worth buying? Is it worth getting? I don't know. I think it's more of like an attachment for me because I did own it back in the day, and I probably had maybe about 5 or 6 games for it. But it's one thing that I will have to say, if you guys ever checked out the Retro Gamer, the Sega CD was very instrumental for other CD-based consoles out there. I don't know if you guys know that, but Sony at that time was looking very closely at the development of the Sega CD, or Mega CD, and also, if it wasn't for that machine, a lot of CD-based consoles wouldn't be out because they use that kind of as an R&D to develop CD-based game consoles like the PlayStation and Saturn. And you guys can read about that if you want. But yeah, it was like a kind of bittersweet. And as far as the 32X, I don't really have a whole lot of love for that. I think that's kind of like a side note. It's like a bookmark. There's not very many great high-quality titles for that, other than Space Harrier and Afterwards, as far as I'm concerned, because they had some good versions of that. But other than that, not really big on that. So.
So you didn't like Sewer Shark for the Saturn? I mean, for the CD? I mean, because that shit came with mine. I put it in and then I turned it off.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh, that shit is the worst.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Sega of America wanted to do. They wanted to promote those type of games.
Full motion video.
They wanted that bad. They thought that was the future. They thought that everyone wanted to play Sword Shark and Night Trap. That was how they were going to make their money. This is so revolutionary. But that got old very, 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 very quick. And Sega of America deserves that reputation of bringing out those crappy games. They do. They really do. And a real game was very hard to find on the Mega CD. It was like you really had to go out of your way to go and find one. And that's sad. But taken as a whole today, as a collector, if you guys want to collect from the Sega CD and Mega CD, now they have a decent library taken as a whole. You've got the Lunar series, you've got games like Vive, it's like an RPG. You've got some Shiny Force CD. There's some good titles that you can actually pick up that aren't so bad. But taken as a whole, no, it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest thing that Sega's ever done.
Okay. Well, Sal, what about you, man? Some quick thoughts.
Fuck Sega CD.
Oh man, I
Fuck.
believe you, man.
I mean, fuck. The only two titles were fucking decent. I actually, because they were real games, was Final fucking Fight, because the Super Nintendo port was total ass. Sewer Shark, I was impressed initially seeing the commercials for it, and I was like, ooh, full motion video, people are talking and moving and actors, and yeah, fuck that. Then I saw Night Trap. The only reason I was interested in that is Dana Plato from Different Strokes. God rest her soul. But other than that, there was shit for it. I was like, I used to play the Funkoland. I never owned it, but I used to be at a little store called Funkoland. And the thing is that I used to play all the time. I was like, oh my god. I was like, why is this still around? And as far as the Sega 32X, I've actually had. Now, Mortal Kombat 2 was good on it. Virtual Fighter, the original was good. It was actually better than the Saturn version. And I think maybe Primal Rage I might have played on it. Those were about it. The rest of it was just shit. It wasn't a big.
32X, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The 32X, because I already gave. There's not much to say. But the 32X would have been nice if they would. It wasn't. I actually considered really the 32X kind of more of a leap forward in a lot of ways than the fucking CD. But unfortunately, they fucking abandoned that. That should have came out in between. Maybe the CD or somewhere around that. Because I don't think it was that bad. I think it was, but they just brought it out the wrong fucking time and abandoned it. It only lasted like a year. So that's what makes it shit. It was just the timing was off. But I actually like the 32X, believe it or not, better than I like the Sega CD. I thought it had better games fucking that would have been better on it than, because it's Sega CD, some of the ports were just fucking awful. They were worse than the fucking actual Sega Genesis ports and shit, especially the SNK ones. They were terrible. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that shit.
Okay.
Yeah, those were pretty bad. But I will say my only holy grail for the Sega CD, if you want to play it, Sylphid. That's a really awesome shooter. I love that game. I made a video about it a long time ago. That game is worthy. And no, it's not a full motion video game, guys. There are a lot of people like to say that. It ain't. It's not. It's pre-rendered polygons. Pre-rendered polygon shooter, kind of similar to Starblade, and that's an excellent game. That's probably one of the, like I said, maybe about 5 titles on the Mega CD that were actually worth playing. It's really a great game.
Man, my I think the CD is good if you can get it for like $15 nowadays. Like if you pay any more than 20, you overpaid. And for the 32X,
bring that shit down.
Yo, yeah, we are in recession, and I'm talking about for the what is it called, for the 32X, $10 or nothing at all. That's the highest I will go to. And the only game I'm buying on that system is the Knuckles Chaotix. That's it. That's it for me. And then for the Sega CD, I currently own Sylphid, Sonic CD. My only games that I actually want to get for it is Snatcher, Popful Mail, Cooey Flying Squadron, Shining Force CD, and Lunar 1 and 2. That's it.
Great. No, those are all great. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
I think KO Flying Squadron.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great games.
That's
those
it.
Are great. But also, there's another game called Bari Arm. There was a game called Bari Arm. They called it, I think they called Stellar Assault, which is like a horizontal shooter. That's actually a pretty good game.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, enough of the dark ages of gaming. Let's go to the Dreamcast, the Big Kahuna for Sega, the Big Kahuna. Now, we'll go with this one. We'll go with Sal, since Sal is basically he just he's fresh. It's fresh in his mind. What do you think?
Fresh right fucking now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, man? About the Dreamcast now, since you don't had it, officially for a couple months now.
The thing is, like I said, I don't change my views on it. I think it's still an excellent system. It was ahead of its time. Unfortunately, a lot of the really, really good games are now like imports. It's a shame it wasn't supported over here because of Sega's missteps and the PS2 and their DVD capabilities. I still like the machine. I think it's great. The games are excellent for the most part, or pretty close to what they were in the arcade. And I really have nothing bad to say about it because the thing is that it's just a lot of love was poured into this machine, and you can tell, and it shows. And unfortunately, the biggest supporter was Capcom, because Capcom actually saw a real future with the system, and unfortunately, a lot of their IPs that they were aggressively putting out at the time, they're not using now. That's why they're fucking financially fucking digging through the garbage. The thing is that, yeah, it's still an excellent system. I can't say anything bad, and that's why the homebrew market is there for it, because it's still an excellent. And I pre-ordered that new game from the NG Dev team, XYX, or whatever the fuck it's called, and because to support not only the NG Dev team, but to still keep the Dreamcast moving and keep it alive and keep producing many more games to come.
Okay, all right. And Jared, what do you think about it, man?
What I think about it, I think that any hardcore serious game collector, it's mandatory that you have a Dreamcast. Mandatory.
Oh yeah.
Like I was like looking at Sal. Sal had a video and he showed all his pickups. I'm like, dude, those are all A1 plus quality games that I would like die to play. You know, it's like, and those are all native to the Dreamcast. How could you not want to play like an arcade perfect Capcom Fighters? I mean, how could you not want to play those games? I mean, and it was just available. You know, it was just. I think it's one of the greatest machines ever made, and I don't like say that lightly. I think it was one of the greatest machines, but no one really wanted to give it props because the PlayStation 2 was going to come out, and you know, and we got into that before. But if you were a serious gamer at that time, which was like circa 1999, how could you not own a Dreamcast? It was just, it had everything that any real serious gamer would ever want. You know? And it had the power, it had the horsepower, it had the graphics, it had it had licensees of the wazoo. You know, it had Sega behind it. You know, and Sega was just bringing up all their greatest creative effort was put into the Dreamcast, and we got that. I remember sitting down and playing it. I remember, like, have you guys ever been to a party and you're like moving, you're like down? It's like, this is a badass party, you know? It's like everything's going great, and then all of a sudden the cops come in, they stop it, like they turn the music off, and you're just kind of sitting there, like,
you're like, fuck.
Yeah, like why are they stopping the party? Dude, this is going great. And I remember getting that. I got like somebody. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna stop making games with Dreamcast. I was like, why the hell would they want to do that for, dude? We're having a ball, dude. I was playing Phantasy Star Online. You know, I was like playing games online at that time, like Outrigger and what was that other game, Alien Front.
Quake.
Just having a ball. You know, and it's just like, why would they stop doing that? And then all the great Capcom, like Capcom SNK 1 came out. That was like a dream game, dude. It's like SNK and Capcom making a game together. It was like crazy. It was like, I don't understand. That would be like one of the worst moments in gaming when they decided to stop making games for the Dreamcast. And another thing, I think that, I will say this too, that was one of the worst moments for a game, because once Sega got out of the fold, they left this great vacuum. And now, basically, they've kind of, Sega would have been like the third wave for gamers, but now that's gone. And now, look what we have now. We just have the hegemonic game companies like Sony and Microsoft, and Nintendo just barely kind of off to the side. So I think that was a horrible moment for gamers, I think. Yeah, I still have my Dreamcast, and I'll always have it. So that's the way I look at it.
I agree with you on that. I really agree. It's a shame because, and you know what's good is a lot of these ports and stuff where it didn't need, like, whereas a Saturn you needed like RAM cards and all sorts of fucking trickery to fucking get it going. The thing is, the Dreamcast was just pop it and play.
Exactly.
That was the best thing about it. No, nothing extra required unless there was something added to the game or whatever you need to do. It was just, you know, like a light gun or something like that for like House of the Dead. The thing is that it was just pick up, play, put the game in, you were ready to go. I mean, it was just meant for the gamer.
This is one of the most awesome game machines ever made, I think. And I honestly think that that I wanted at that time with game machines. Like finally, I get arcade perfect boards. I get a lot of diverse type of games, and a lot of like the quality, the ratio of quality games to bad games was more biased towards good games.
Yeah.
And it shows, dude. Just look at your library of games that you have. It's just like how many times you're like, oh, this game's how much? Yeah, they're shovelware, but I mean the percentage is very low compared to how many good games that were actually developed for that machine. So I'll always give props. I totally love the Dreamcast. It's a great point in gaming.
Yeah. Yeah. My thoughts on it is Dreamcast is once again, just like how Jared said, mandatory. Definitely mandatory. And you know, I'll be honest with you. If you don't have a Dreamcast in your collection, you say you're a collector. There's no reason for me to even listen to you. That's true. I mean, what can you tell me that I don't know? You know what I mean? Because the Dreamcast was that important. Because you have to think about it, man. The customer, the customers did not like, Sega. The stores did not like Sega. Customers had, no faith in the brand, and then they just changed it all around with that Dreamcast. And then just to have it taken away from us so quickly, it was crazy, man. I remember just like Jared saying, playing Phantasy Star Online for hours, man, with orange soda and some fucking Doritos, man, for hours playing that game. And Dreamcast is great, man. It's forever. It's forever. It's forever.
Yeah, you gotta have.
You gotta have
one.
one.
And they're not that expensive.
They're
That's
not.
the whole thing. It's not like it's like the Neo Geo where it's like, it's way out there. You can go out and you can buy one. I saw one today or yesterday at a pawn shop for like $40, and I almost want to just buy it, just to have another one. It's like buy that, and get the games for it. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, they have RPGs. They have hardcore shooting games, fighters galore. I mean, so many fighters. Shooting games, first-person shooting games, third-person. It's a great system.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, it's coming to the end of the show now, and we're going to give our final goodbyes and our final thoughts on today. So we'll start it off with Jared. Go on, man. Do your closing comments, bro.
Hey, just everyone, just thanks for supporting the podcast, man. This is all about you guys out there and all the gamers out there, man. That's why we do it. It's just fun just to come in here and talk. And, don't be shy. If you want to come on, just hit up PC, hit up Sal, hit me up, and we'll find some time, man. Come on and we'll talk gaming, man. That's what it's all about here. So that's all I want to say.
All right, Sal.
Like I said, I want to thank PC. I'd like to thank Jared, Super High Tech. The thing is that it's been a while, and like I said, it's just fun, just kind of like giving an honest opinion about something without being paid for it. And the thing is, like I said, if we welcome all comments, like I said, and even like Jared said, the thing is that just if you want to come on here, speak your piece, because you know what, so regardless, whatever your feelings may be, I mean, come on, just have a good time, and just kind of vent your feelings towards certain things, and that's it. But just do what you got to do.
All right, cool. And once again, I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today. For listening to this podcast. We know, they usually go for about an hour and 30 minutes, and that's a long time to sit for anything. But I hope you guys are enjoying it. Enjoying the podcast and enjoying me, Sal, and Jared. Because we love talking to you guys, and we just love when we get to conversate like this. So if you guys have any comments or questions, just leave them. And if you guys do want to be on the podcast, just let us know. It's not a problem. We'll work around, everybody's schedule. And just want to say thanks, guys. And this is PC. And we're signing off. Happy holidays.